Qualcomm approached Intel about a takeover, apparently, Ed. It would be a very nice deal if Qualcomm could get its hands on Intel at a fraction of the price that it was at just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I would say that it's all according to a Wall Street Journal report that's quite thin on detail, simply that Qualcomm made an approach to Intel in recent days. They cite people familiar with the matter without naming them. Look at the basics. Qualcomm has about $13 billion of cash and cash equivalents on its balance sheet. It has a market cap of around $137 billion to $188 billion to Intel's $97 billion or so. And Intel has just announced this restructuring whereby they have pulled back on some projects, namely in Europe. They have secured a fab customer in Intel and then sort of separated out the fab unit. I would say, Vonnie, that the context that you asked for is that this doesn't make a lot of sense in the context of what Qualcomm has been doing historically. Qualcomm is a smartphone chip name historically. It wants to be a PC chip name, a market that Intel has dominated. But it wanted to do it with its own technology, not necessarily through M&A. So, I mean, we can talk about the logic on both sides, but the market, as you see, is reacting.
So what would be the logic on both sides? Let's start with Qualcomm. What would be the logic in Qualcomm? And does it have to be kind of the whole company? Like, are there bits and pieces of Intel that might make more sense?
One thing that Qualcomm does not have is any experience of manufacturing. We call Qualcomm, like many, a chip maker, but it is not. It is a chip designer. Intel does have US production of its own chips, quite established in Oregon, for example. It could be a consolidation of that for Qualcomm, looking at its own footprint and saying, well, Intel's got a fab and we could fill it with our chips here in America, taking advantage of the sort of political in industry environment. From Intel's side, neither company is commenting, right? We've not verified this report at Bloomberg. It's hard to see the Intel side of the story given the restructuring they've just gone through.
Yeah, and we don't want to go too far down the road of speculation and what would happen if and when, etc., Ed. But at the same time, just a couple of days ago, Intel said it wasn't going to get rid of Mobileye, so it obviously wants to keep the parts of it that it's decided to keep. Does that mean that it would not be amenable to a deal like this?
I guess that's an issue of chronology. So Intel first came out after market close earlier this week saying, this is our plan, pull back in Europe, separate out the foundry business. And by the way, Amazon or AWS has agreed to be a foundry customer. They later issued a statement saying they had no plans to specifically divest their majority stake in Mobileye. Actually, it's been normal practice to this point for Intel to sell small tranches of their Mobileye stake over a period of time. Which is more a sort of return on investment or cash flow thing, but they say they remain committed to the autonomous driving story, which Mobileye is a chip maker focusing on advanced driving assistance tools. So to extrapolate out in the Wall Street Journal report, which again, Bloomberg's not verified, they've just gone through a very big strategic rethink, Intel, another one after a long period of trying to do it. There's no suggestion or reporting from anywhere that they're out there shopping themselves to a rival chip maker.
No, if anything, that was part of the conversation in terms of strategic initiatives. And if anything, they seem to decide against that. So then in terms of Intel being able to go it alone, what are going to be some key markers that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think it's this idea that, if the report is accurate, it's quite interesting from Qualcomm. They have had a period where Cristiano Amon wanted to diversify them away from their historic base. And there is some evidence that they've done that. They're strong in automotive chips. This is the age of the AI PC. Right now, I'm using a Dell XPS 13 that has a Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite in it. And they're making some headway in that PC market. So why then would they go and do this? And I'm a reporter, Alex. I'm not a banker. I don't know if the maths on this one in terms of how you would finance such a deal. So it's interesting for sure.